Thanks, Gregor. Morning, Paul. What was your reaction to yesterday's news, and how does the head coach quantify what it means to have Adam Lowry under contract for the next 5 seasons after this one?
Well, it's just great news in terms of, trying to keep that core together and that structure. And especially when you've developed it, right? You've put the time and effort into bringing young players along. They get to the age of Adam where they have the opportunity to hit free agency. And boy, 6'5" physical center icemen would be at an absolute premium. So to have them commit early to commit to Winnipeg, to the town, the fans, the team, the players in the room, it's great for us. We're really happy. He's just such an incredible character guy. I think he likes playing here. He likes his role here, and he's good at it. And he sees a place that he could, spend a career. So we're really pleased to have him back in for a long time.
We'll go next to Jennifer Botterill from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Jennifer. Oh, sorry, you're just muted.
Good. Are you there now? Hi, Paul. How would you describe the collective belief within your team now, and how have you seen that grow throughout the season?
It's a great question because we came in this year. I think, when you look at our years, almost, there was a young team that was kind of coming of age and had a bit of success. And then we had a major shift on our blue line, which was, part unexpected with Dustin retiring, but also I think anticipated because of, those young players who score goals get paid. So things have to shift. So I think the best way to describe it is we felt we lost traction last year in the adjustment year. And then coming back, we added some really good veteran men. And I think that's had a really, our dynamic in our room changed because of it. Also our dynamic on the ice, how, even I run the bench. We have a fourth line that I believe as a line hasn't given up a 5-on-5 goal when they've played, but we're in Toronto the other night and Thompson, Lowry, and Lewis are on the ice with the goalie out. And that's a brand new piece to our team. Forbert comes in as a veteran guy. We have Beaulieu prior to his injury. So we put a few more older guys into our room. This is the first time that we've done that in 4 years. Paul Stastny comes back. So now we've got some guys with kids, and we've got kids running around on our off days, lots of dogs. And so the culture changes along with the people, and it's not always driven by the coach. It's driven a lot of times by the personalities in the room. And we've had this kind of unusual schedule. I can't say it's any different, the other things that we deal with than anybody else with COVID, but a lot of unusual things happen. And we would say that we've handled it well. And I'd have to say we did that because we've got good men, good veteran men that were able to kind of roll with it a little bit, which is what you've had to be able to do here, right? Your schedule just changes. You thought you were playing, now you're not. Now we're playing at 9 o'clock and we're playing at 4 o'clock and we're all over the map. Guys with a little bit more experience kind of roll with that. So the room's belief is strong in that we've handled our adversity, handled it well. So when the next piece of adversity comes, and there'll be more, I think we have a decent template for that.
We'll go next to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Thanks, Gregor. Hey, Paul, when you talk about Adam and you said how he likes to play here, he likes his role here, it's a place he wants to stay. It's a similar story with a number of the different players that have been here and, decide to stay long-term and found a place. I mean, that has to do with the roles that you've created for them and all the different players and how you've made them fit and found a place for them. I'm not saying you've batted 1,000 when it comes to players wanting to stay and re-up and stay here long-term, but you've done a pretty darn good job of finding places for those players. What kind of sense of pride do you take in it when a guy like Adam Lowry says that he wants to stay here and makes it a priority to want to stay here and be a part of this organization and the culture that you've helped build?
I think that's player driven, not coach driven. You certainly need to recognize it. But the player has to do something for anyone to say, this is a guy we want to be part of that future. And Adam would be a prime example of that, right? He's an everyday guy. He works hard every day, takes care of himself, is committed every day, says the right thing every day. That's just who he is. Plays the hard minutes happily. He's not in my office looking for ways to score more goals, or I mean, he's trying to improve his game, but it's kind of help the Jets. How can I be a better player for the Jets? And that's his mentality. I mean, some of it is obvious when we're talking about, let's say, all the, so, and I'll try to be as respectful as I can because I think he's good men, but you had in one training camp, we had Hellebuck, Pavlik, and Hutchinson, all of them, Helly just coming in, and the other two feeling established. But for us, it was clear that Connor was the goaltender of the future. So you make those decisions, and you know, they're not always popular at the time, and some players get excluded because of it, and sometimes that's difficult for them. But the players do something to make that happen. Either it's because they were incredible players as amateurs, or more often it's what they do in the National Hockey League. Adam's earned it. You know, he's just earned the role. He's earned the spot. He's done all the right things. He earned the contract. And I think what we've done, if we've done something well, is we just recognized it.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, good morning, Paul. Last year, I think you mentioned repeatedly when Adam went through some injury issues, how much that made it difficult on the bench for getting your line assignments out. So a two-part question here. How much has that factored into your team's success that he's remained healthy all year? And are you better situated, heaven forbid, if you have to play a few games without him?
So the answer to both of those is yes. I think when Adam came into his role, and we would be going back about 4 years ago now, into that role, and Andrew Kopp, and there were times it was Joel Armia on the wing and Brandon and Tanev on the wing. We had different people in there, Andrew Kopp. They went into that checking role, and I think we went a stretch of a couple of years where we top 2 or 3 in home wins. So I felt that was a big part of it. What Adam Lowry did is he allowed Kyle Connor, at the time Patrick Laine, Nikolai Ehlers to come off the bench third with Brian Little. And they scored there, right? They put up big numbers there, and I was able then to keep them away from the other team's best. Now, I don't have to do that as much anymore. Like you saw even in some of the Toronto games, and it may happen here tonight, you know, it's the Scheif and Stastny go out first, and Lowry comes out third, and I'll use Lowry and Thompson more defensive zone face-off. So zone starts have started to come in, something I never did before because of where we were at. But Mark's made some really nice adjustments in his face-off numbers here in the last little while. So we are better situated now with our depth, that if we were to lose an important centerman, we've got Dubois and Stastny and Kopp, and we've got Thompson in the forehead. We've got a number of people that can go in. And we're just hoping we don't have to deal with that.
We'll go next to Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Paul, good morning. Adam was a guy, I remember many years ago, he hadn't cracked the lineup yet. I remember him having a book in his hand. He just seems like a very thoughtful guy. Whenever we ask him questions, you know, when we were allowed to go in the dressing room, he'd had no problem spending, and sometimes more time than you ever expected, to kind of explain the game to him. And I'm just, for someone who's been around Adam for as long as you have, where do you think that comes from, and how beneficial is it to have someone so grounded like Adam in your locker room?
So mom and dad, it would start there, and a hockey life, right? So his father's got 1,000 games in the National Hockey League. So hockey is a huge part of that life. They talk it all the time. By the time he hits 18, 19, he's had deeper conversations about the game and the philosophy of the game and the character you need to play in the game than the vast majority of players coming in. There's just not a lot of guys whose dads, you know, and Dave's a coach, so he's got the mind to be a coach. So he gets a real leg up in that department just on mom and dad alone. And then there's how he's wired, right? He's also the player rep. So that all factors in to kind of the decision he's made. Would have been very well thought out, understanding 6'5", I'm physical, I can make plays, I hit the open market, I'm going to get a lot of people calling me. You know, he's the player rep, so he understands how all of it works. And then he also knows this is a good place for me. We got a good team here. It's a good life. I like playing here. I'm respected here. We can win here. So he makes that commitment. I think that comes from the original part of your question. He's very well grounded, and he has a really good vision of all the things that are out there. And then he knows how to value those things that are out there.
We'll go next to Ted Wyman from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Ted.
Hey, Paul, you've talked a lot about the depth of this team, the depth that you've shown all season. I'm wondering just about leadership depth and what you've shown in the last little while with Blake Wheeler out of the lineup. Well, it seems like you've got a lot of players that can fill that role.
I think that's true. I think, and part of that is, the Adam Lowrys of the world aren't 22 anymore, right? They've been in the room a long time. They recognize that Blake's not here. Now they've had the benefit of kind of 4 or 5 years of watching Blake train and work and trying to, his intensity level so that their games improve because of it. And then now there's in this room here, it's probably as old a group as that I've had in Winnipeg. There's lots of men in that room that have a voice and that's fourth line straight through. So it's not just a function of the personality. Our fourth line is exceptionally well respected in that room, right? They're on the ice at the end of the game with the goalie out. Everybody gets that. So we got more guys talking in the room now, more guys pulling together. So Blake is he's a constant leader, but there's almost less pressure on him to lead. Some of the wrinkles that we had with younger players have been slowly ironed out here. And now just look at Nikolai Ehlers' play right now. I don't need a player in the room to grab Nicky because he's had 3 or 4 tough nights or his confidence isn't there. We just don't have as many of those young guys that you're trying to shepherd all the time. So when he's out, we just got more men and they handle the challenge of that better.
We'll go next to Scott Billick from the Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Paul. After Adam Lowry signs, you start to see the things about, a guy's, what is a contract going to look like after year 30? Beyond that, it's a young man's league. People start questioning, a 5-year deal, especially with a guy that is big, is going to have a lot of miles on him. What as a coach do you say about that? About guys that are getting their contracts into their kind of mid-30s sort of thing, and that kind of thing.
Well, he'll be early 30s by that time. He, he's not 35 now. That would never have been a factor for me at his age. He is coming into his prime, and we're going to get 5 prime years out of this guy. Where he gets to on the next deal, 33 to 38, that'll be a question of role and performance for sure. But, when you're trying to win and you feel you're in the wheelhouse, you just look around the league at the other teams. They were all adding veteran players at the deadline as hopefully the piece that puts them over, right? They didn't say, hey, let's trade all our older guys to get younger so we can win more. And I don't consider him, I consider him a mid-range. He's just coming into midlife in the NHL. So he's going to hit that 5th year and be a better player possibly is now. Maybe he's a few minutes less, but you're going to add 5 years of experience to a veteran, hardworking guy. He's going to be a better player in his last year, I believe, than he is this year.
And final question to Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weaver.
Well, obviously Blake Wheeler on the ice today. What's the latest in his progression? And also, what can you tell us about how you plan to use that platoon situation on the back end moving forward here?
So Blake's been cleared. He's feeling great. He's passed his tests. He, I guess, potentially could have been available for tonight. It didn't make much sense for me to do that, especially with the change that we've just had in our schedule. We can get 2 more days of working out, and then he can get 2 full practices in with the team, and we can be 100%. I mean, we're 100% sure as far as we can be with all the where we are medically to diagnose these things. But he feels great, says he's 100%. Doctors say he's good to go. But we're not going to put him in tonight until we can get him in a couple of practices, and then we won't think about it again. The platoon idea is probably right. It'd have a difficult time taking a guy out of the lineup. He has a huge night, right? We might double back, but I do want at least Villy and Jordy to see some more action down the stretch, so we learn more about them as much as anything with these matchups. So it may be as simple as rotate them for a few games, and then depending on where we are in the last handful of games, you may see 2 of them in the lineup, or you may see 1 player run straight through to the end. But it'll be performance-based. They're going to have to play. Villy was good. He had a good assessment of his game. He said he didn't think it was great, and he didn't think it was terrible. It was kind of in the middle, and we were thinking that's a pretty darn good thing back-to-back for the rest of the hockey team in Toronto, that we can say that accurately about your game. So I was happy with where he is. as I had said, I liked Logan's last game before I took him out probably better than the 2 prior when I didn't. So he'll get an opportunity to kind of get back in. I don't want to leave a guy out too long now. So that's the plan with those guys.